Welcome to the World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust. Welcome back to the World Awaits. How are you all? How's your week been, Kirsty?
I have been settling back into the grind after going to Tahiti and was fortunate to go to an industry event in this last week organised by you, Belle, yay, at Melbourne Winery on Flinders Lane. Oh my God, it was such a cool venue. So I had no idea this place was there. So it's actually only opened in April and it's Melbourne's first urban winery and it's in a building that was built in the late 1800s, which was recently an office building, and it took them a year to rebuild it, make it into this winery. And funnily enough, they were saying that there was once an AA upstairs, like it used to be a place where that people met for Alcoholics Anonymous upstairs, which is kind of funny, but kind of not. He did say he was going to do an event with non-alcoholic wine for people, to kind of as homage to that. But yeah, so basically they have their own wine label, which is wine made mostly from the Ballerine from Scotchman's Hill, which anyone that knows their wines would know is pretty special. And you can go along and they have happy hour for all the local office workers, and you can also go along and do this amazing wine tasting. And it's such a pretty venue. What they've done, the way they've designed it, and it's massive. So you walk in and there's like 72 wine barrels kind of just placed randomly around the place. And there's a beautiful cocktail bar, and then there's all the seating, and there's all these separate kind of seating areas. So, and you can order food there. They have really good food. They had really good pizzas and beautiful canapes. So yeah, it was a pretty special place. So if you're in the city and you're near Flinders, because it's right near the train station, so you can just call in there, have a few drinks, and then jump on the train on your way home. How's your week been, Belle?
Well, I'm a bit bummed out about missing that one, to be honest with you. So I've had a very quiet week following my escapades in the Central Highlands and Tassie last week. But I did go to Emirates Roadshow as they launched their Euro summer campaign. And their hot picks for Europe, I'm pleased to see we are totally on trend, Kirsty. Their hot picks are Malta, Norway, and Portugal. Just keeps on keeping on with that one. Staying on airlines, I note with interest this week was also the launch of Virgin Australia's new pet seats, which we'll tell you more about after our interview.
Yes. So before we get into all of that, we're going to chat about the newest rating for hotels around the world, which is called Michelin Keys. So everyone's heard of Michelin, the Michelin Guide, and knows about the Michelin restaurant, scarred restaurants, but they've now extended it to keys. So it's basically an accolade from properties get 1 to 3 keys, and 3 is the highest you can get. And it identifies the best hotels in the world. So they use a criteria, and the 5 criteria to get a Michelin key is excellence in architecture and interior design, quality and consistency of service, overall personality and character, value for the price, and a significant contribution to the neighbourhood.
Yeah, so there's nearly 2,500 properties received a key around the world, but only 143 of those got the 3 keys, which is like it's like the gold star for hotels. So as expected, there were such icons as the Savoy in London, La Marmonia in Marrakesh, which I had the great joy to stay at years ago, the Maldives' iconic Cheval Blanc, and Monaco's Hotel de Paris Monte Carlo, which was, of course, a favourite hang of Princess Grace, aka Grace Kelly of Monaco. And in New York, Casa Cipriani, which sounds like a mob hangout, but it actually set in a 1906 ferry terminal in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah, and back at home here, Australia had 35 properties that made the list, but only 1 property actually got the coveted 3 key ranking, and that was adults only Lizard Island on Great Barrier Reef in Queensland.
Have you stayed there? Because, I was scheduled to stay. I was doing a cover story for the Sydney Morning Herald on New Island developments in Queensland, but it was adults only, and I was travelling with my little baby, who was just 9 months old at the time. She was jumping. Well, she wasn't jumping. She was being lifted in and out of helicopters, but that ruled me out. So I haven't stayed. Have you?
A 9-month-old, you should have been able to stay at adults only with a 9-month-old. I also haven't stayed, but I have stayed at a few of the others on the list. So there were 9 in Australia that got the 2 keys, and one of those was longitude 131. Oh my God, this place is beyond remarkable. So I was actually there when they were shutting the borders for the pandemic. I was literally there that week that we came home from there. They shut all the borders. And it's a luxury wilderness camp with 16 tented pavilions. And the pavilions are all named after outback explorers. And they're all sort of dotted. They call them pavilions, but they're just like these gorgeous luxury suites. They're all dotted among the red rust sort of dunes of the desert with views across to Uluru. So in our one, we could just lie in bed and look out to Uluru. It was just amazing. And the resort's all inclusive, and the dining, like the food there, was honestly some of the best I've ever had, and with the daily changing menu. And others on that 2 key list were Southern Ocean Lodge on Kangaroo Island, which was recently rebuilt after fire, and also Sapphire Freixenet in Tas and Jackalope Hotel on the Mornington Peninsula. And another one I stayed at, which was 1 key, was the One Hotel in Melbourne, which is a really new hotel. And it's a sustainable-led brand, One Hotels. And they, oh my God, they really do walk the talk. So they incorporated a 1942 industrial Malcolm Moore crane into the hotel design, restored it and repositioned it so it was sort of like a sculptural tribute to the area's shipping. And inside that hotel are 7,000 plants and 4,500 square meters of reclaimed timber, and you see it everywhere when you stay in the hotel. You see it. So the reception desk alone is made up with repurposed elm trees from Melbourne's Metro Tunnel Works, and there's an artwork above the desk that's crafted from 60 kilograms of textiles that were otherwise destined for landfill. I love that so much. And in the lounge, the decommissioned railway bridges were used for the staircase, and even the floor is offcuts of timber that were hand cut into little tiles. So that looks like little tiles, a beautiful flooring, but it's actually offcuts of old timber.
And that's what I guess they're looking for. They're looking for that unique, that sense of place. I mean, I loved seeing Drift House in Port Fairy on the Victorian South Coast on that list. And that's a rare thing, another rare thing in Australia, which is a family-owned and run boutique hotel right at the top of its game, and it really exemplifies that Michelin Key. I've actually stayed there a few times, and each time it's been spectacular. But if you're in Sydney, the QT, the Ace, and the new Eve Hotel, which opened last year in Redfern, made the list, along with the gorgeous Capella in the old Department of Education building in the city, and the Langham. I've got to say, Kirsty, I was actually surprised to see Qualia on Hamilton Island at only 1 key. I thought it would have been a 2 key. Who knows? Because it is just an astonishing piece of hotel property. And a special mention to Osborne House in Bundanoon in the New South Wales Southern Highlands. It is on the list, and I'm mentioning it because it's been on my must-visit list for 1,000 years. It is just the most, if you want interior design, it makes my heart sing.
I reckon we just need to tick all these 35 off, the ones that we haven't done. And we will put a full list of all the hotels in the show notes, where you can also search this for affordable Michelin Key properties, because as they say, it's not just about the price per night, but about offering a stay with hospitality and experience that encapsulate a sense of place. This week, I'm chatting to Belle as she takes us on a driving holiday through the Red Centre, so buckle up, friends.
Oh, absolutely. It is the iconic Australian destination, and this is a really timely discussion because this year marks the 40th anniversary since the Uluru Handback, which was when the federal government handed the title deeds for Uluru back to the Indigenous people of Australia, so they actually own the land. If you can remember back that time, it was a really significant moment for Indigenous Australia. And it's such a symbol of Central Australia. And, of course, it's one of our most recognisable landmarks.
Yeah, and when you're there, you certainly feel it feels pretty special. So it was good timing to go along. So tell us about how you got there, Belle.
Well, of course, the easiest way to visit the Red Centre is to fly into Ayers Rock Airport, stay at the resort, jump on some of the activities and see Uluru. It is that easy. You can tick that box in a long weekend. But I think that there's more to it than just Uluru Kata Tjuta. So we spent 8 days driving the Red Centre Way.
Amazing. Yeah, no, definitely deserves more time. So tell for anyone that doesn't know what the Red Centreway is, how long is it and how do you do it?
Well, it's a loop drive. The Red Center Way is a loop drive between Alice Springs, the West McDonnell Ranges, Kings Canyon, Uluru, and then you go back up to Alice Springs. In total, it's about 1,100 kilometres. There is one section from the West Max to Kings Canyon that is currently unsealed, and it's advised as four-wheel drive only. So you could start in any location, but usually it's Alice Springs because that's where most of the facilities are, including car hire and supermarkets. You can hire some cars at Uluru, but in my experience, it's been really tricky and often you won't find those four-wheel drives or a choice. So we flew in and out of Alice Springs for this journey, and each day had a bite-sized drive, sometimes just an hour or two. The longest was the drive back from Uluru to Alice Springs, which took about 5 hours for this, for this great loop through the Red Centre.
So tell us, what did you do it in and where did you stay?
Well, there were 5 of us. So we actually, it sounds a bit odd, we actually had 2 cars. So we had a brand new 4-wheel drive Ford Warrior, which had 2 rooftop tents on top of it, and a Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, which is a standard car out here for much of the Northern Territory's government fleet, just because it is really such a sturdy car. In the past, I've done sections of this drive in a regular 2-wheel drive car. And as a bloke said to me in the West Max, most of the residents out here, and by that he means people living in the villages and communities around this area, are banging along in old Commodores. So you don't have to be kitted out in the big macho $10,000 4-wheel drive kit. But of course, a 4-wheel drive doesn't actually hurt. So we had the 2 tents on top and another tent below.
So what was it like? So were you staying in there?
Yeah, we were camping. We had those rooftop tents, which are amazingly easy. After the first time to pop it up, here's a hot tip. Don't try to put them up the first time in the dark. Very boring. And we had another single tent on the side just to accommodate all of us. There was me, my friend Jude, her 2 teenage boys, and I had my teenage daughter as well. So the first night was actually really interesting. We stayed at a property called Oromina Station, which is about 40 minutes southeast of Alice Springs. And then we stayed in the Ormiston Gorge in the West Max. We stayed at Kings Creek Station, which is about 30 minutes from Kings Canyon. And then down in Uluru, Ayers Rock Resort is the main place you can stay. And it has accommodation there from the highest longitude, which we were talking about earlier as a Michelin Key property, down to the campground, the slightly more humble campground where we stayed. Although it did have a lot of great facilities, laundries and hot showers and picnic areas and a swimming pool as well. So, we weren't totally roughing it, I've got to say.
That was going to be my next question. What were the campgrounds like? And obviously, because a lot of people road trip there, right? So you're going to have good campgrounds. That's so what do you do what about if you don't have sort of where would you stay if you didn't have somewhere with camping gear?
Well, yeah, if you don't have all the gear, I mean, firstly, we didn't have to lug all of our gear up from Melbourne. It came with a van hire. So the sleeping bags, the cooking equipment, the tents, everything was already in there. We did pack very lightly though, too, because a lot of those, you can't just fill up with giant bags of your own gear. So you've got to keep it light because you've got your food in there and you've got water and things like that. But look, even if you weren't a camper, that is totally not going to stop you. As I said at the top, you can fly in and stay at one of the best hotels in the country if you're going to. Alice obviously has a lot of accommodation. And then Oromina Station, which I mentioned, which is this old cattle station. It's such an amazing place. The landscape is incredible because you've got this red desert, you've got these escarpments everywhere. That the woman who bought Oromina actually has been using it as for filming movies on site. So it was really strange. We drove in and you literally drive into like an old town main street on this station, which has been built. So they're just facades built for a movie site. So for a movie setting. So you've got the old pub. Yeah, it's got the pub with the piano in it, which is absolutely.
The kids would have loved that. I bet the teens out there.
Yeah, I was like, get in the lockup, guys, which is the police station across the road. So you could camp around those sort of areas, which was great. And then, but it also has these 4 beautiful little stone cottages that are built around the property, and And actually, I met a few people who live and work in the, around the Red Centre, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go stay there next week." Really super romantic, just completely solitary and isolated. So they're very rustic and they're very gorgeous, hidden in that landscape. But then you go up to the main homestead, which is where you go for your meals, where you can hit the Wi-Fi, you can have a swim in this gorgeous pool, which I did. I was trying to do a swim every day while I was there. But then, so that was Oromena. I mean, there is a range of accommodation at Discovery Resorts at Kings Canyon. That's also, it's kind of like a similar to Es Rock Resort. You've got everything from camping to motel rooms, and up to the higher end accommodation. And also at Kings Creek Station, where we were staying, which has got the same thing: camping, motel stays, luxury glamping with private pools and sparkling wine, and canapes and all of that sort of thing. So I think it's absolutely not necessary that you have to do the full camp. I mean, we saw so many families, with the vans, obviously doing either a driving tour, because we were there in the first week of Victoria's school holidays. So there were people taking their kids around into the Red Centre, or you could see doing the larger lap around. And they were totally kitted out in these four-wheel drive campers, and not so much motorhomes around here, but yeah, so you don't have to do the full camp. You really can do it in style or do it on a budget as well.
So how did the kids cope with the heat and the flies? And because typically, like when we went up with kids, we were just up on our own and we were doing a bit of hiking. But my God, those flies, I mean, you don't want to be, you can't whip out some food and just expect that a fly won't join you when you, the piece of food when you go to devour it. So, how did they go?
Yeah, that's what they say, the Aussie wave. It's like and you can't see it because this is a podcast, but I am waving my hand across my face for the flies. I saw a guy with a fly net, thrown over his hat. And then I saw another one, and then I saw another one. And then I thought, oh my gosh, whoever's making these fly nets that you just pop over the top of your hat is making an absolute fortune, because everybody had them on. I didn't, because I'm vain, and also I was like, oh, seriously, just spritz on, the eau de Regard, and you'll be fine. And I did. We had
until the flies literally get up your nose, like they did for me. And so I wore one of those fly nets because I was like, there ain't no flies going up into my crevices.
Oh, flies on Kirsty. So look, we were there only a couple of weeks ago. So in late September, what was really interesting was the week before it had been really hot. So it was hitting up to 35. Our week, we were freezing one night. So it was sitting around the 25s. And then the week after, it was going back up to the 36s. So I think the fly thing, generally when there's water out, then you're going to see an influx of flies. And yeah, there were a couple of flies there, but that's all part of the experience, right? They're all creatures of this earth. So the kids all dealt with it. They had to deal with it. And they're little toughies as well. So we, I think everybody really focuses on Uluru and to a lesser extent Katajuda. But there's so many more adventures along the way, and we just hold them into all of them. There's walks, there's art experiences, there's cultural chats. In the Chortam West MacDonald Ranges, this is a long, I just found them, I hadn't spent a lot of time there before, and I found them absolutely fascinating and incredibly beautiful. If you had ever seen Albert Namatjira's paintings, who was one of those great, one of the best known Indigenous artists who was painting in a Western style, he absolutely captured the colours, just those dreamy, soft pinks and blues of the West Macs. And it's a long, low mountain range that's broken into segments. So if you think of like a caterpillar that's got sort of as a land formation, yes. and the caterpillar actually features in the creation stories amongst the people here. So you'll find the mountain ranges broken into these water-filled gorges. Probably the most famous one is Simpson Gorge, just outside Alice, which is absolutely spectacular, and it set the tone for those to come. So in those, you can swim in most of the waters. Some of them are designated cultural sites that you can't swim in. But I was on a swim mission, so I jumped in at Ellery Creek Big Hole. I jumped in at Ormiston Gorge where we can't. You can swim at Glen Helen and Red Bank Gorge. So you can do a swim drive around the particularly through the West Macs, and the water is it's clear, it's clean, it's, some of it's coming up from aquifers. And when you come out of it, you just feel completely invigorated. There was a moment where we ran into an LGBTI tour company, and they did have grown men in budgie smugglers jumping on pink uniform, which is like, okay. And some guy who is doing a Priscilla version of the Red Central Way, because Priscilla Queen of the Desert was filmed actually on parts of it were filmed on Kings Canyon, and a lot of it through Alice Springs as well. So it was a bit of a shock to go down for a swim and expecting this spiritual experience. And there was a guy in full drag standing there with a pink unicorn, with his arms out. I was like, okay, everybody has a completely different take on this one. That's yours.
I'd love to see the socials on that one. So moving on. So where did you go next?
From the West Max. This is a really interesting part because the road is only partly sealed on the drive to Kings Canyon. So the unsealed part is called the Morini Loop. It's 160 kilometers. It's a full 3-hour drive, with stops to photograph wild donkeys and brumbies on the road. This is Aboriginal land, and you do need a permit to drive it. I mean, the permit is $5. You get it from the tourist centre in Alice Springs. So it's not like as soon as you start saying road permits, people go, oh my God, that's too difficult. And it's got admin. And I hate admin. You hate admin. The world hates admin. It was very easy admin. And that money goes back to the communities. Basically, you're having permission to cross their lands. But it was a great drive. I'm in there in my 4-wheel drive Warrior, and it had rained the week before. The council had run graders over it, and locals were telling me at Galveston they just made it 10 times worse. So it was like if you had any loose teeth, would have been gone by the end of the 3 hours. It was rugged. Can I say for the ladies out there, sports bra territory? It was just so rough.
What they call it, road massage.
Oh my gosh. Maybe that's why I've got a sore back at the moment, because I was just dancing my way over this. Yeah, that could be the one. There's some fabulous lookouts along the way particularly, you can't stop on the Morini Loop. You can stop for a quick refreshment and stuff, but you can't camp along there. But on the sealed roads of the West Max, there are plenty of camping spots and panoramas where you can also camp the night. And you just drive up and you just have that quiet time, and you might just see a flood of budgerigars swooping past, screeching, or zebra finches, or you might find lizards. And we had our eyes out for little wallabies, rock wallabies. And I think this is the thing, when you're in that country, you have to take that time to just be quiet and to listen to the country. And that's when you start hearing and seeing the things that otherwise you're just driving past at a rate of knots. So, there's plenty of spots to stop. If you are not self-sufficient, you've always got to have your own drinking water and plenty of petrol, but there's bathrooms, there's toilets and picnic tables with those fabulous views until you get to Kings Canyon. And the hero activity here, which I think you've done, is the rim walk. And also on the top of Kings Canyon, and also the much shorter 2-kilometer river walk, which was really lovely, especially for bird watchers. So I've done the rim walk a couple of times. It is definitely best as early as you can go in the morning before the temperatures start to rise. And the week after we were there, so the first week of October, was when the temperatures are starting to hit 36, and they actually close access to the walk. The rangers close access to the walk at 11 a.m. So you can't start the walk after that. And they say it's 3 to 4 hours, but if you're a fast walker, and even allowing time for stops and photos and stuff, 4 hours is going to be a stretch. The first time I did it, but the thing is that it's on those hot days with these fabulous rock formations such as the Lost City and the Cliff Walls, they just become these massive heat radiators, and it's very exposed. And I have to say, the first time I did it, and I was staying at the Kings Canyon Resort, the Discovery Parks Resort, a bloke on the walk actually did have a heart attack because he overestimated his...
God.
I know, he'd overestimated his abilities. People were saying, oh, it's easy, you can do it and stuff like that. He wasn't prepared, and he wasn't well enough to do it. But this time I saw rangers, and I had a chat to a ranger as well while I was there, and there were ranger stations all the way through with defibrillators and and emergency water in those spots because, and I think this is important because the Red Centre is becoming more accessible, and people are choosing to do it, but also underestimating the land. And I think that is a really important lesson about it, is that
Yeah, of course.
you don't underestimate the environment.
Yeah, that's right. So, what would your advice be to people about where to eat and what to do? I mean, obviously you're self catering a lot, but what's your advice about some cool places to stop in to eat along the way?
Well, I've got to say, we did self cater a lot because we had two teenage boys that were hoovering for Australia. Holy crikey. I mean, I have a little girl, and she just kind of picks around the edges, but the boys were just like, I was actually going to say to shock. So, Kirsty, hats off to you. No wonder you have got gold or silver status through shopping at Coles. Oh my God. Very cool. So, yeah, we always had food in the back. The food scene is almost a parody here. We ate camel burgers at the Discovery Resort at Kings Canyon. Oh, so giant big things. And I thought, yeah, like enormous big, because there's wild camels everywhere. Camels, as everybody knows, the Gan is named after the allegedly Afghan cameleers who, when they were building the train through Central Australia. I think most of them were for Balochistan anyway, but so giant camel burgers, and then this bush tucker experiences. So you kind of go and eat the witchetty grubs at Carrick, which is a bush tucker experience run by local people near Kings Creek Station. We did a bush tucker high tea at Ayers Rock Resort. Had to scrub up a little bit for that one because we were looking pretty skanky at that point. So I just wanted to dust off a bit, and then go into Ayers Rock Resort into the one of the fanciest of the hotels there. And that's where we tried scones with rosella jam and all sorts of bush ingredients in the little petit fours. And interestingly, they had a vegan version for my travel companion and photographer, Jude, which was actually really impressive. And I actually thought that vegetarians, celiacs, vegans, pretty much everybody was catered for at the bigger stations. At most of the food stops, you could get something that would suit most people. I did notice actually there was a point driving back up to Alice Springs where the roadhouses there had big signs and clearly had quite a few Southerners there with barista coffee available, and I was like, yes, I am in there. I am driving in, and I am having a big fat flat white. Thank you for coming. So,
I don't know how my almond chai latte would go, but anyway,
you'd be surprised. Actually, you would be surprised.
Powder maybe, not the tea leaf.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know, because I'm not a chai latte connoisseur like you, but I think you'd be pleasantly surprised at the accessibility of the food around there. But you've always got to have that bag in the back because you never know what's going to happen, right?
So true. And funny when you said about cleaning yourselves up from the red dirt, it made me think about, I remember when I was in Broome and they were saying, that it always stays with you quite literally because it's in your clothing and your, like, sometimes like my shoes I think were never the same after that red dirt. So what do you think this type of holiday, who's it sort of best suited to? And do you think it was a good place to take teens?
I think that the Red Centre has something for everyone. I mean, you can camp and hike like we did. You can also do it in luxury with those helicopter rides over Uluru and Kings Canyon and, stays at the Longitude or those luxury glamping tents at Kings Creek Station. And I think that mobility-wise, it actually caters for a lot of people as well. If you are not entirely mobile, the first time I went to Kings Canyon, I was with my mum, who was really ill at the time, and we drove there from Uluru, and she was so looked after. They had wheelchairs around if she was feeling unwell. I did the ream hike, she did the helicopter. So I think for all ages and stages, it's especially if you're active. I mean, riding around Uluru on bikes and stuff like that was brilliant for the kids. You can segue around them, but then. I think whatever you do, I think what everybody needs to do, no matter your time frame or your price point, you do, as I said earlier, you need to slow down and experience the culture there, because it's something that nowhere else in the world can replicate. And you can do that easily with a visit to the Gallery of Central Australia at Ayers Rock Resort, or you can visit an artist community near Alice Springs. We took a guided walk at Stanley Chasm in the West Macs. Or, you can do those walks around Uluru, stopping to read the information and just to listen and admire. I mean, we took an amazing pre-dawn sunrise journey, which is a 2-hour storytelling experience and art and light installation just outside Ayers Rock Resort. And while you're there, you have your breakfast and you are watching as the sun is rising, like as first light appears over Uluru. These voices of these artists are telling the story about the land and about why they welcome people to country. And you're hearing them speaking as you watch the sun rise over Uluru. And it's just magical, because coming back to the start, it puts that Uluru handback into context, because, I mean, our country is home to one of the world's oldest living cultures, and Indigenous Australians really should not have to beg for respect or appreciation for their ancestors. And if you can take that respect and appreciation away with you from Central Australia, then you've had more than just a holiday, but a holiday with genuine meaning.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll put a link in the show notes too of the places that Belle's talking about, so you know how to book them and how to do them. And if you want to see more about Belle's experiences in Central Australia, you can also jump onto her socials, Globa_Salsa on Instagram, or her website, globalsalsa.com.
You're listening to The World Awaits. Subscribe through our website at theworldawaits.au.
Our tip this week is about new rules about flying with Virgin Australia.
Yeah, so this is interesting because from February, you can now take 8 kilograms on board. And I have to say, when I heard this, I did wonder if they're going to police this, because Jetstar are brutal as far as making you weigh. Usually, I haven't flown Jetstar for a while because I go Virgin now because I want the points. But Jetstar and also Jetstar let me down too many times. But they were brutal with weighing your luggage. So I just wonder how they're going to manage this, because even flying recently, when I flew to Tahiti, oh my God, the luggage that people are taking, giant suitcases and trying to shove them in overhead lockers. But anyway.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that's the prime source of flight rage in the US is the competition for locker space. But so 8 kilos on board, and it's even more if you're traveling in economy, X or business, because they, along with other loyalty program members, can carry 2 bags up to 14 kilos plus 1 small item. And I always debate, how small is that small item?
Yes, exactly. And also, I do love this one. So eligible economy flyers can also now, this will be me, can also now submit a bid on the Virgin Australia app to reserve an empty seat beside you. So, my God, I love this. So it's on select flights, and the bids start from only $30. I'm doing this one. It's called Neighbour Free Seating Service, and it's available now on, just like I said, some select Virgin domestic and short haul international, and they're going to have a wider rollout after the trial period.
Do you reckon that they'll ever have any spare seats on Sydney, Melbourne? I mean, it is one of the world's top 3 busiest flight routes in the world. It's just insane.
It'll cost you. It'll cost. You certainly won't get it for $30.
I know. When you were saying that, I was like, $30. I mean, the last time I got offered an upgrade for a domestic, they said, begin your bid at $330 and you'll have a good chance of getting that upgrade. I was like,
I've been so lucky. I've had so many upgrades around the $100. But yeah, I hear you. I mean, I doubt very much you'll be getting it for $30.
Oh, you're a mongrel. You have been so lucky. So, look, I'm actually more excited. I am more excited about the other recent development with Virgin Australia, which is they now let you fly with a small dog or a cat. Bookings are now open for flights between Melbourne and the Sunshine Coast and Melbourne and the Gold Coast. Obviously, Melburnians love their dogs. So you can travel with those pets on this trial now until the 30th of January in 2026. And Tiny Little Dog is incremental because my friend Julietta Jameson, who writes also for the Sydney Morning Herald, actually did the flights there, and she's in the same boat as me because the flights are great, but your pet has to be under 8 kilos. But that also includes the carrier, which might be a kilo or two. So really, you're looking at a 6.5 to 7 kilo dog. I mean, I don't want to be doggish or anything like that, but 6 kilo dog. I mean, mine are 26 and 33 on a good day because he ate all the pies. So my dogs are absolutely.
Well, I mean, you think your dog ate all the pies, but Kyla is actually 42 kilos. So she trumps your fluffy things that your dogs are fur. So that's probably where half of their weight goes. Kyla's got no excuse. She's just pure fat. So I do hope it's extended one day to bigger dogs, but do I want to be on that flight with a heap of howling dogs and whining cats? No. I mean, screening babies is bad enough, but to have an entire flight full of whining animals, I really don't know. But
I don't know. Anyway, I did have a screaming baby behind me on my flight down to Tassie the other day, and there was no coaxing that kid into happiness. But I do think that smacko, I reckon a smacko or two, trying to calm them down. You just force feed them smackos for the entire flight. Hilarious. I wonder, they should be included in the fare, right? Imagine that if they included free smackos for every dog. My dogs would be on there regardless.
Yeah, true. But with Kyla, you'd literally be having to feed her the entire packet of smackos, and she'd be vomiting in the plane before you landed, and that would be more unpleasant than the whining and the howling. And we will put a link to all the details about taking your pets on board in the show notes.
I am so excited to tell you about next week's interview. My guest is iconic Australian musician David Bridie, who's a founding member of world music band Not Drowning Waving. David has an unbreakable link with Papua New Guinea, and we are going to talk about travelling in PNG, which this year celebrates its 50th anniversary of independence from Australia.
And we'd love it if you could follow us on socials. You'll find us at The World Awaits Podcast on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And feel free to drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au. Or if you're enjoying this episode, please give us a rating and review.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.